Welcome to The Economy Magazine. I'm Benjamin Chong Alvarez with the top stories in the global economy. Coming up today, as the World Cup in Brazil approaches, sportswear companies present new cleats, and Nigerian entrepreneurs enter the video games market. First, the headlines. European officials prepare sanctions against Russia and additional aid for Ukraine as efforts to calm the conflict failed. French Foreign Minister Laurent Fabius said the sanctions on Russia could be imposed as early as this week.
We sent them a proposal for this de-escalation. They haven't yet responded. If they respond positively, John Kerry will go to Moscow, and in that case, the sanctions won't be immediate. If they don't respond, or if they respond negatively, in that case, there are a series of sanctions that can be taken as early as this week, and which will include freezing the assets of individual Russians or Ukrainians, as well as sanctions relating to travel visas.
A spokesman for German Chancellor Angela Merkel said the time for a conversation and rapprochement is short. Brussels, meanwhile, prepared unilateral trade concessions, eliminating customs duties on all Ukrainian products. The move would save Ukraine 487 million euros on exports and further link Kiev to the EU. Kiev will also sign political chapters in the controversial integration treaty with the EU next week. The World Bank offered Ukraine's new government $3 billion, including up to $1 billion for budget support. Roughly $2 billion of the financing will be for infrastructure projects and private sector programs requested by the previous government. The White House forecast more robust economic growth in 2014 and a further pickup in the economy for 2015. The U.S. economy is expected to expand by 3.1% this year, faster than last year's 1.7%, while growth would pick up to 3.4% in 2015. Unemployment, which fell to a 5-year low of 6.6% in January, is forecast to ease to an average of 6.9% in 2014. But many economists say that the unemployment rate has dropped in part because many people have stopped looking for work. Nigerian oil company Seplat plans initial public offerings in London and Lagos, marking the return of natural resources listings to the UK stock market. The group is looking to raise $500 million by selling new shares, giving it a market capitalization of more than $2 billion. Seplat is a leader among the emerging indigenous Nigerian oil and gas operators and pumps about 60,000 barrels a day from fields it bought from a Shell-led consortium. During the past 5 years, the homegrown Nigerian oil industry has expanded exponentially, buying assets worth $5 billion from important oil groups. And finally, big pharma companies warned Australia to expand its poppy growing industry as global demand continues to grow. Australia, the world's biggest supplier of narcotic raw ingredients, is one of few countries approved by the UN to grow opium poppies for legal commercial production of pain relief drugs. For half a century, the Australian government has handled this license to Tasmania, creating a monopoly for farmers worth $108 million annually and $5 billion for the drugs industry. GlaxoSmithKline, Johnson & Johnson, and TPI Enterprises are lobbying to be allowed to grow opium poppies commercially on the Australian mainland. Opium poppy plants contain morphine, codeine, and thebaine, ingredients in a wide range of common painkillers, as well as in illegal drugs such as heroin. While soccer teams prepare to battle for the World Cup in Brazil, another fight for global supremacy is underway between Adidas and Nike. Let's see the following story by Daniel Roth for more.
Construction is accelerating and teams are training harder as the World Cup in Brazil is less than 100 days from its start. But for sportswear companies, the competition has already begun. Last Thursday, Nike and Adidas presented their new cleats, a hybrid model halfway between a shoe and a sock.
The boot is different from what we have seen. It is a novelty for me, totally different from what I have used before. I am happy of how the process went and how it feels.
And for the first time, Nike is beating Adidas for the number of teams wielding their logo.
We've got 10 teams that are actually on the pitch, so we're really excited, from Brazil to England to France to Holland.
Meanwhile, Adidas dropped to 8 teams from the 10 they had in 2010. The duel between the two companies is for a market worth several $billions. The Brazilian sportswear market in 2014 alone is expected to grow by $1.4 billion, or 12.5%, according to Euromonitor. Adidas' revenues from football sales are just under $3 billion, while Nike, newer to the game, is hovering around $2 billion.
The World Cup's going to help us all around the world. I mean, you know, football is clearly the #1 sport all around the world. It's an exciting time for consumers everywhere. So what we'll get a chance to see is we'll bring great innovative products to the marketplace.
While the two companies together control about 80% of this market and continue to battle it out, Adidas' history is long and the German company's name may still carry more weight in the football world. After all, it is their design on the official ball of the competition. Still, Nike is not far off.
And for more on this story, I-24 News sports anchor Jonathan Regev is here with us today. Thank you very much for joining us, Jonathan Regev.
Thank you for having me.
So, how much is the football kit worth, and is it worth more in 2014?
We should not really wonder why Adidas and Nike give so much emphasis on this, because the football jersey world, say, is estimated at about $5 billion annually. That is in a regular year. But this year, 2014, we have a World Cup with teams displaying their jerseys every other day. Another team displays the official jersey of the World Cup. And everybody, if you're a diehard fan, you're going to run to the store and buy it, because you don't want to wear the old one that you bought a year ago. You want the new one, the official one. So you're going to run to the store. Estimates say, we said $5 billion a year. Estimates say that in a World Cup year such as 2014, it's worth perhaps even up to 30% more. That is big time money.
That is seriously big time money. So within this very big brand rivalry, I mean, is there a winner between Adidas and Nike? Can we point to a winner here?
Well, we just saw in the story they're quite equal. There is one thing giving Nike the edge, though. Nike is quite new to the world of football. They only joined in 1994 when the World Cup was played in the United States, and after 20 years, they're still up there with Adidas. Adidas, they had football for years. They're a German company. Football is very big in Germany.
Nike was much more in basketball before,
exactly,
right?
With Michael Jordan, Air Jordan, that was their showcase.
Right.
Ever since the mid-90s, they're into football, and in 20 years, they have been able to stand up there together with Adidas. Adidas have always been the big name in football for 60 years, ever since the 50s. They're a German company. Football is big in Germany, not as big in the US, but Nike has made football a big business, absolutely.
Fantastic. So what has Nike actually done in order to close that gap?
Yeah, we're seeing that shoe right now. You see, it's shining. It's yellow. We see Andres Iniesta. They have big players with giving them a lot of publicity. You know, Adidas is one of the official sponsors of the World Cup. So when around the field we see a lot of commercials by Adidas, publicity. But you see they have a very yellow or orange shoe by Nike. Every replay, it captures your attention. It takes your eye. So you see their logo.
So what should Adidas do?
They have a lot of publicity, and they should get into social media. The same as what we should do. Same as what journalists do.
Right.
Social media. That's what Nike do. Their Twitter page is much more popular than the one of Adidas. That's a secret these days.
So, I mean, in this whole rivalry, can, as Adidas and Nike go against each other, and certainly other companies as well, I mean, can it create a mess where a player is committed to two different teams,
Absolutely.
so to
We saw Andres Iniesta in the story now. Well, this is the thing. Andres Iniesta, one of the key players for Spain. Spain is endorsed by Adidas, but Iniesta himself is endorsed by Nike, because they endorse the teams, those brands. They endorse both players and teams. What will he do? So what, will he wear one Adidas shoe, one Nike shoe? Perhaps. I don't know. It may happen with money controlling so much. The problem is that these big brands, they have a lot of calculations themselves. There's a big story in 1998. Ronaldo, the Brazilian, he's said to be having a serious problem ahead of the final. But Nike said he has to play. And he played, and he was a shadow of himself at the game. But they said that Nike made a point. He should play. You want the big money we invest in Brazil? Nike allegedly said back then, we want him to play. So actually, it's not only football. A lot of money is involved, and money obviously making decisions.
Fantastic. I-24 News sports anchor Jonathan Regev. When is your show?
Right at 7:40. That's 7:40 Israel time, 6:40 Central European time.
Fantastic.
Watch
Thank you
us.
very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.
The worldwide video games industry is expected to be worth around $87 billion by 2017, but the market in Africa continues to be largely untapped. All that is set to change thanks to several young startups in the Nigerian city of Lagos. Here's the story.
In this ordinary-looking office in the Nigerian city of Lagos, young entrepreneurs are working to create a gaming revolution. Until now, Africa's video game market hasn't figured on the global stage, but within just 18 months, the team here at Kaluya have created 70 online games whose popularity reaches well beyond Nigeria's borders.
Somebody comes in, remembers something he saw somewhere or outside, we discuss it, we put it in a game. So it happens. The idea can come from anywhere. And sometimes we also look at games that are very popular across the world and say, okay, look at this game. Why is it popular? We try to learn from it and see how we can, apply that in our games, or even do an African version of that same game.
Kaluya, meaning action in the Igbo language of southern Nigeria, started with an initial investment of $250,000 and is now worth around $2 million, employing a dozen people. With 400,000 downloads over the last year and a half, its popularity lies in the simplicity of its games.
What I like in Nigeria video games is, one, the local content, okay? Because it tends to give you that everyday feel. For example, the Okada hustle, it tells you how you ride on your bike, trying to avoid so many obstacles on your way home or on your way to work. Two, it's very simple. All you need to do is gain as much coins as possible and avoid the obstacles.
But Kaluya aren't alone and need to score points against main competitor Malio, another young firm founded just 2 years ago. With most gamers in Africa preferring to play online rather than on home consoles, its founder Hugh Obi is well aware of the potential of the mobile market.
Mobile is massive in this part of the world. It has the highest penetration, especially for internet users. And we are exporting a lot of our games onto mobile.
With 100 million people using mobile phones in the African nation, cracking Nigeria's mobile phones games market would be a very good game to win.
And now for a look at some of the more offbeat stories we gathered for you from the press worldwide in Media Watch with Daniel Roth. So Daniel, I understand that we have a special focus today on Madoff.
Bernie Madoff.
Why is this?
Well, two reasons. One is the jury is now out on the only criminal case to come up out of the scandal. 5 Madoff workers, 5 people who are working with him, are now, perhaps on the hook for somewhere between 60 and 200 million years in jail. 211 years in jail. But
really,
it's because Madoff actually gave himself up.
Right.
So he pled guilty. He's serving 150 years in North Carolina, and so that's on one side. The jury just went out, and they're going to come back soon. We assume.
Right.
The other thing is that tomorrow marks the 5-year anniversary since bail was revoked and Madoff was thrown in prison.
Right.
He had posted $10 million bail, which was easy for him. And so tomorrow marks the 5-year anniversary of him being really in custody, actually in custody.
Unbelievable. Now, for these other people, who are we talking about here? We're talking essentially about the people who were handling all the paperwork.
Yeah. It's like people working under him, people making his scandal go, making this Ponzi scheme happen. And people are trying to get out of it. There's obviously a lot of people involved in this, and it was a long time coming. Already in 1999 there was people reporting to the SEC. This guy seems suspicious.
For a long time they already had really clues, as to what was going on there. The mind boggles, truthfully. But his family is not involved, right? One of his sons sadly committed suicide fairly shortly after, and his 2 sons, if I'm not mistaken, were the ones who actually ratted him out. Am I correct?
Yeah, there's a lot of questions as to what level of involvement his family had. Certainly their money was taken away, and one of the issues here is that the Madoff family, obviously this is a big deal everyone from corporations to foundations to individuals were taken for billions of dollars.
Right.
What they're saying now is that somewhere between $15 and $20 billion is the level of the scheme. But the real story here is that J.P. Morgan, for example, who knew about this,
right.
were only fined about $1.5 billion
which
for
is
knowing
really
about
nothing
it.
for them. Right.
1 in 4 bankers report that wrongdoing is necessary to get ahead in their jobs. This is like the kind of culture that they're living with, and the Madoff family obviously was culpable in this and deserves justice. But there's a larger culture at work here.
Right, indeed. Well, that larger culture, I'm sure you will be attacking next week and some other time soon. Thank you very much for watching us, for joining us today. We'll be here again tomorrow. Please send us your comments via our website and Twitter, and join us again. Bye.